Last season on the Chalk Line, we brought to you a celebrity crime season. It was fun, it was interesting, and it was crazy. I mean, there were some cases I didn't know going in, and they turned my world upside down.
No, I mean, I was floored at some of the cases that we covered last season.
To say the least. This season, we're bringing you a brand new idea. Well, not to say it's never been done before.
But never done like this.
And never done by us. We're bringing you a season all about cults. Stay tuned. Our first episode comes right now.
Family is everything. No question about it. True, they will get on your nerves like nobody's business, but at the end of the day, it's all love. And I so desperately wish that was the theme for today, but this family is nothing of the sort. This family ruthlessly murdered without remorse or care, all led by a deranged racist who couldn't deal with rejection. What better way to kick off the cult season by starting with Charles Manson? I'm Sherry Ferreira.
I'm Helen Allen.
This is The Chalk Line.
Good evening, everyone, and the highlights of the news this Thursday.
I was like, I've been out of the game too long. I'm like, is this my comeback scene? What's going on?
So we're talking about the Manson family.
The Manson, quote-unquote, family. These deranged lunatics.
Yeah, they're cuckoo bananas.
I mean, truly, and I don't want to get into, like, the scene or, like, the time period could have had an influence, but, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of these people did some really fucked up shit, and we're here to talk about it.
Yeah. I think also, like, I know the gist of the Manson cult.
Of course, you watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes, and I didn't love it. Well, I did, but I didn't.
It was slow.
I don't know, I had mixed feelings about it. There were parts that I was like, wow, this is phenomenal, and there were parts where I was like, why did they make this movie? But, you know, whatever. But what I was going to say is I think everybody kind of knows the gist of this story. Everybody really understands, like, what went down, you know, the basics of it. But I am very excited because I've heard from you as you were researching this that, like, there's so much more to it than just the surface level.
There is. There are a lot of people who are connected to it that I didn't think would, like, be connected to this case, but they are, and it was just really fun researching and reading more about the actual victims of this case. I feel like a lot of times we just hear about Charles Manson and the family and all the people involved, but I dug a little bit into who the victims were, as much as, like, I could dig up from, 30, 40 years now?
Right.
And it was really interesting, so I'm excited to tell you guys
I'm excited
everything.
to hear it. All right. Get to it, girl.
Let's start with the piece of shit himself. Charles Manson, birth name Charles Miles Maddox, was born on November 12, 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, much of what happened during his childhood is unknown. However, it was rumored that his mother was a sex worker and alcoholic and that he never knew his father. Now, this little rumor was spread by Manson himself. That sort of explains why much of his childhood is unknown, because it's a lot of his retelling and, you know, it's a little unreliable, you know? We can't really trust him.
When you're saying rumor, you're saying, like, it has not been supported or refuted.
Exactly.
We just don't know.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Now, in the book titled Manson, The Life and Times of Charles Manson by Jeff Guinn, it goes into great depth about Manson and his childhood, but most importantly, the author interviews relatives of Manson, and they had a couple things to say. They were here for it.
Here we go.
One of his relatives said, quote, "Manson has lied about everything in his childhood, every opportunity that he's had, and no one's ever really challenged him on it, though the record was there if you wanted to look far enough. He always claimed he was the child of an unwed teenage prostitute who tried to sell her baby once for a pitcher of beer."
I've heard that story before.
Yeah, me too.
It's not true?
No, false. False.
Interesting. Here we go.
What I did come across in my research is that he was born to an unwed teenager. Her name is Kathleen Maddox, and she was 16 years old at the time.
Wow.
But there's no record of her being a sex worker. However, she did go to prison when Manson was 5 for attempted robbery.
Okay, so not to, back him up or anything, because he does not deserve any sympathy.
Right.
But I am just going to say, whether she was a sex worker or not, it doesn't seem like he was born into, like, an incredibly safe and good environment.
Off the bat, no.
No.
Immediately not.
Right.
Yeah. It was also said in the interview that, quote, thanks to finding Charlie's sister, we now know the mother's side. She tried desperately to help him, to keep him in school. She loved him, and to the end of her life, her heart ached for things he did. Which I found was very interesting, because I haven't really found much about his relatives or, like, interviews and stuff like that besides the interviews from this book. So that was very interesting.
Interesting.
After his mother went to prison, Manson lived with his aunt and uncle in West Virginia. When his mother was released, she married a man named William Manson, but that marriage quickly ended. And at age 12, Manson was placed in an all-boys school.
It's interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it is interesting that's the man that he has his name from.
Mm-hmm. Right. You'd think it would come from his birth father.
Or
because I think it changed because his birth name was Maddox and then it changed to Manson.
So his birth name was his mother's name.
Right.
So it's interesting to me that he would take this man's name, even though he's not necessarily the person that raised him.
At all. And the marriage was quick.
Right.
So I wonder, that's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I wonder what impact he had.
But also, do we care?
No. Not even a little bit. Manson was a huge troublemaker. I mean, shocker to absolutely no one. And he grew up going to several different all-boys schools and juvenile reformatories. And he would go on to spend his early adulthood in prison.
Okay.
Much of his early adulthood in prison, I should say. Manson displayed a lot of manipulative tendencies, even when he was very young. I came across this one story over and over again, so I'm like, all right, I have to bring it here. It was that he was known to manipulate his classmates in the first grade into hurting kids he didn't like.
Okay, that's horrifying.
Disturbing.
I would give my kid away if I found out that.
I mean, I'd be like, what is going on with you?
Like, that's actually a horrifying story.
Right? It said that he tried to move back in with his mother, but she rejected him. And so soon Manson was living on the streets, at which point he started committing a lot of petty crimes.
It's always the mother, isn't it?
That's what,
we always want to blame the mother for these pieces of trash. And maybe the mother is to blame most of the time. You know, I'm not even going to say that they're not to blame. But doesn't it get boring that every serial killer, every murderer, they always got a mother problem?
Or like a rejection issue.
It's always a mommy issue.
It really is. I'm like, grow up, you baby. I'm sorry. Mommy didn't like you. Grow up. Go to therapy. Get help. Yeah. Please. Manson did his first stint in prison in 1951, and he was in and out of jail throughout the 50s and 60s. A probation report from this time says Manson displayed a, quote, marked degree of rejection, instability, and psychic trauma, and was, quote, constantly striving for status and securing some kind of love. So we hit it right on the head. Rejection, mommy issues. I mean, this seems like a lot of things that would stem from that.
Boring. I'm bored, Charles.
Not the full name.
Did you want me to call him Charlie like they do in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I mean, if you want.
I was definitely, like, when I heard, they didn't say Charles Manson once in that movie.
No.
They just said Charlie. Like, all of the flower children were like, should we go back with Charlie? And I was like, okay, you guys are ruining a real good name, okay? Keep it to Charles Manson.
I mean, that's maybe for, like, legal reasons he couldn't.
Yeah, I know, but...
Which is weird, but I mean, at the same time, if you're doing the whole film based about his entire life, might as well just call him Charles. You know what I mean?
It's like, we know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to be cute. His crimes during this period largely included stealing cars, pimping young prostitutes, and forgery. And I guess we gave this disclaimer sort of in the beginning, and I hate that I even have to say this, but this retelling of his life is in no way to give sympathy for this man and the crimes that he committed. I just want to make it clear that we're just relaying his childhood as context. It's all just backstory, so don't get butthurt here. It's
interesting to see how people were raised to become the monsters that they become.
Right.
I agree with you. It's important to note because this man didn't just pop out of the thin air.
Right. Anywho, he was released from prison in 1967 and moved to San Francisco, where he initially arrived to pursue a career in music. It's no, listen, it gets so much worse. It's here that Manson began to attract a small group of people who shared his passion for the, quote, unconventional lifestyle and habitual use of LSD and mushrooms. In case anyone's, just waking up, this is California in the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that whole rejection of the norm and, like you said, flower children. It's a lot of that.
The Beatles did LSD and mushrooms, okay?
Really?
They didn't start a cult. They didn't kill anybody.
That makes a lot of sense.
I don't claim him. As if I claim the Beatles or LSD or mushrooms. Me. Hell.
You're like, I just reject it, and I want to put it on record.
I just don't think anybody who does LSD and mushrooms claims Charles Manson.
No, they definitely don't.
Not that they need to. You're allowed to do a drug and the same, whatever.
Not associate yourself with
I
Charles
don't know. I'm not promoting drug use here. Just saying the Beatles did it. Ever heard of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds?
Oh my god, maybe that's where he got...
Don't tell me that just clicked for you.
It did, because I didn't, listen to the Beatles like that until I heard, a couple of popular songs.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
I wonder, spoiler alert, Manson got a lot of his inspiration from trying to pursue his musical career from the Beatles. So I wonder...
Helter Skelter, right?
Yes.
We'll get into it, right?
Within a year of him being in California and attracting this group, it slowly started to build. Manson became the leader of this, quote, family, and that's what they all began to call themselves. Members of the family. We're in the family. Fuck off.
It's very pick-me behavior.
It is. It so is. It's like, we're in the family.
I didn't get to have a family, so now we all are misfits and we belong.
Grow up. I'm sorry. Now, the family was made up of a lot of young women, and I think in general, everyone was very impressionable.
I wonder if the family was made up of young women because, his mother was young when she had him, and he's, trying to search for that same, maternal young figure.
Probably.
I mean, he's a freak.
I think a little bit of that and a little bit of him just being, a pervert,
Yeah, he's a gross man.
A mix of both, but I definitely think...
How old is he at this point where he's, starting the
30,
cult?
40, 50, 60, 2030s.
Okay.
Manson was also heavily influenced by artwork and music, which, is why he came to California to pursue music. He was really into those things. But he was specifically influenced by the song Helter Skelter by the Beatles. I love the way biography.com worded this, but they said, quote, Paul McCartney has said that the playground slide in Helter Skelter was a metaphor for the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Manson, however, interpreted the lyrics of Helter Skelter as an incitation to begin a race war. He believed that once African Americans rose up against white people in an end-of-times race war, that only he and the family would survive.
Okay.
Let's crack this open. It is...
The Beatles are so peaceful. They're so peaceful. Have you heard Imagine by John Lennon? He's one of the most peaceful mans.
I don't know how someone could...
I have a hard time understanding why anyone would listen to a Beatles song and be like, chaos! Let's create chaos!
It's, not even chaos. It's, this, drive to, put a wedge between black people and white people during the 70s. I don't know. It almost makes me think, I think he was crazy, but I'm almost is this calculated? What is this, thing that you so feel the need to push forward?
Well, and it makes you just, go back to, when he was in first grade and he was manipulative. It's he just grew into a more manipulative monster as time went on.
Right.
And, now he's not manipulating kids on the playground. He's manipulating, adults in their lives.
Not young women, which,
yeah.
Another, thing.
Oh, well, yeah. Some of them were not adults, to my understanding.
Yeah.
But the ones who were also... it's just, sad all around. Because now he is an adult and he has the, agency to make his own decisions and turn his life around and say, hey, I was raised by shit and I'm going to make it better for me. But he decides to just ruin everybody else along the way.
Went left real quick. Real quick.
This cult season, Sherry, I don't know if it's for me. I'm gonna preface this for everybody so that you can understand why I'm complaining all season. I love to talk about true crime, but this cult shit, I don't know, it's a little bit too privileged for me. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to feel bad for any of these people.
I mean, no, it really is.
There's a lot of privilege in these cults, right? Like, I mean, and not every single cult, obviously, but like here, I mean, he's just like this white man who thinks that he can do anything and beat anything, and I cannot stand it.
Manson grew fascinated with Armageddon from the Book of Revelations and also explored the teachings of Scientology and more unknown cult churches. So he wasn't just, you know, the inventor of this. I know a lot of people turn to Manson as like the one cult they reference, but he was not the first. He was not the last. He was pulling a lot of influence from those cult churches that existed prior to this.
Yeah. Tom Cruise, you listening?
Oh my God. Remini. Wait, Lisa. What's her name?
Who are you talking about?
Remini? Lisa Remini?
I don't know what that name is.
No? Remini?
Are you embarrassing me right now? Should I know this?
Yes, you should. The girl from Kings and Queens. Leah Remini. She's like a big proponent of speaking out against Scientology. I forget what her connection is, but like she is a real big advocate for being like, hey, this is like a cult. They are doing fucked up shit to these people that are a part of Scientology, and she's just a big advocate for getting the word out. Shouts
We're
out to you,
going to
girl.
actually talk more in depth about Scientology this season.
Oh my God.
So, you can educate me on this then, Sherry.
Okay,
I'm
will.
really excited. And also not, because I hate it, but, but I'm here for it anyway.
Okay. Eventually, Manson would use the lyrics from Helter Skelter and other songs from the White Album to justify his preachings and guide his followers to commit murder.
I just also want to point out, the White Album was not named after white skin. It was named after the literal color white. You know, like just blanco.
Yeah.
White. The color white.
Gringo.
I
don't know how many
not
ways we
gringo,
can say it.
Blanco. It's not a white man. It's the White Album, the white color of the rainbow, not white skin. I don't know how to, like, say it any better. Like,
Yeah.
It's not Caucasian. It's not the Caucasian album. I mean, it's just white, the color. Why does everything have to be, like, twisted?
I don't, because,
God damn it. All right, go on.
Now, at this point, the family had grown to having around 100 members, so they eventually all moved to a deserted ranch in the San Fernando Valley. That's sort of where we're going to put a stamp in Manson and the family.
Put a pin in it.
Put a pin in it?
Yes, say that again.
Okay. And
I'm not here to embarrass you.
So we're going to put a pin in Manson and all the members of the family and talk about a man named Dennis Wilson.
From the Beach Boys.
Yes! I literally got introduced to the Beach Boys from Full House.
You know, I'm going to walk down the aisle to a Beach Boys song.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not telling you and all of our listeners.
You're right.
It's a surprise.
Oh my
I'll tell you
God.
off air.
Okay, I'm gonna cry. Okay. Preaching racist propaganda, say that 10 times fast, wasn't the only thing Manson was doing at this time. He was also still grinding in hopes for his music career to take off. Manson wasn't having any success in the biz thus far until...
Poor baby.
Right? I'm
like,
like, aw, is leading, like, a family of, like...
100.
100 people with, like, racist teaching not good enough for you? You have to go to music. Oh, you...
And, like,
Ugh.
I'm sorry, but do we need another toxic person in Hollywood? No wonder it didn't work for him.
No. Honestly, no.
Let's go. What did Dennis Wilson do for him?
So he introduced him, and Dennis Wilson actually saw talent in the way Manson played his weird folk music. The two grew close, and Dennis even allowed Manson and several of his young female followers to stay at his mansion. And this was in June of 1968.
Okay.
But they were eventually kicked out because they trashed the place and totaled his Mercedes.
Why would you let 100 people on drugs stay
Well,
at
I
your
don't think
house?
I don't think it was 100, but I mean, even a few.
I'm being dramatic,
Okay,
Sherry, and I need you
okay.
to let me have it because we're talking about Charles Manson here.
You're right. Why would you let 1,000?
Why would you let 2 million people
5
stay at your
billion.
house and drive your Mercedes while on LSD?
You were begging for trouble.
Dennis, you asked for it.
Thank you. It was through this connection that Manson got the opportunity to audition for Terry Melcher. Now, he was the son of Doris Day and was a friend and producer of the Beach Boys. Now, at the time, Terry was living at Roman Polanski's house.
Ah! I know exactly what this means!
Wait!
Okay.
But...
Also, Roman Polanski, kind of trash.
I didn't know how trash. That's another thing in my notes. I did not know how trash.
Let's get to it, girl, because trash.
No.
All right, let's go.
Okay. But Melcher wasn't interested in signing a contract with Manson. Now, it's also said that Dennis had stolen a song that Manson wrote and re-recorded it to put on the next album that the Beach Boys released. I don't know the name of it, but if you look it up, you can see there's like tons of articles about it.
That's okay, Dennis. Take it all you want.
That's okay. That's fine. You made a mistake and you're getting your revenge.
Made it better.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Let's get into Roman Polanski a little bit. He was a very famous director who when I was doing my research, was like, oh, I've seen The Pianist. That was so beautiful. Oh, I've seen this film too. He is a piece of garbage
He's
actual
been blacklisted
shit.
from Hollywood, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
No, No, he was not,
No, he
because
hasn't.
all those
No,
famous...
now I'm saying. Like, he will never get another job. I mean, he's like an old man.
Well, I think so, yeah. Now he is blacklisted, I would hope, but...
Or at least by us.
At least by us, we're not
Me
standing...
and you.
Yeah, me and you. We're not standing Roman Polanski.
But I mean, like, the audience. Like, I remember going to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and being like, oh, that bag of rocks.
Yeah, but
You
I
know?
mean... It's weird because, okay, let's get into why we have such
just
this
go
anger
ahead.
and resentment.
I don't know why we haven't said anything about him yet.
okay.
I need to let you talk. Go ahead.
Upon Googling this piece of shit, who made some great films, like I said, Rosemary's Baby and The Pianist, he's a fugitive living in Paris, France, because he pled guilty in 1977 to unlawful sex with a minor and fleeing the United States for France on the eve of his sentencing.
Yeah.
I was seething. I was even more pissed when I found out that The Pianist was made in 2002. So why are these movies coming out after the fact?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Tell me.
We are now in an era of not protecting as much monsters. Like, people still protect monsters, but if we find out, we get them, you know? Like,
and that's what I love about us right now in this time.
So back then it wasn't like that. He had money, he had everything, he was untouchable.
Yeah.
He has since fallen from grace. I believe, like, he could never get a job in Hollywood ever. If he steps foot on American soil, he's toast. But, you know.
Yeah. No, and
it's a sign of the times.
It is a sign of
truly.
the times.
And, like, that's one of the best things about our culture and our era right now, because there's a lot of shit that's not good about where we are right now.
But
we're headed in a better direction in terms of gross men.
Yeah, no, that I love. Let's keep canceling the perverts and the predators. Love that.
Yeah.
And let's just keep going, you know? So anyways, he was a famous movie director at the time and was married to Sharon Tate, who is the next person we will discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon Tate was one of the victims of the event where Charles Manson and his family went into Roman Polanski's home and committed several murders. Now, Sharon Tate was an up-and-coming actress and model. She was one of those stars who were on the cusp, I feel, of just exploding and becoming world famous.
Yeah, I think, like, not for the fact that they have the same first name, but she would have been like a Sharon Stone.
Right.
Like, just so much sex appeal, also so much grace. Like, everybody loved her.
She just had that magnetism.
Yeah.
In my notes. And the bitch was gorgeous. I mean, let's not dance around the subject here.
I agree.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Her first major role was as Jennifer North in the 1967 film Valley of the Dolls, which earned her a Golden Globe Award nomination. Golden Globe Award nomination? That doesn't sound correct. I think it's just Golden Globe nomination.
She was nominated for a Golden Globe Award. You could say it like that.
She was nominated for a Golden Globe Award. She had just married Polanski and was 8 months pregnant at the time.
The next, so heartbreaking.
The pauses I'm taking because
the only consolation, and this is fucked up, but like the literal only consolation of that is that Roman Polanski was not a father to this child.
Right.
But
and
I mean, it's still horrifying because Sharon Tate would have made a wonderful mother, I'm sure.
Of course. The next victim is Abigail Folger, who is a coffee heiress, and immediately...
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I was like, is this the same Folger coffee heiress? Are you kidding me? Coffee?
And it is.
It is.
It is.
I was like, oh my God, a coffee heiress? Work.
Well, damn.
Wojciech Frykowski, who we're just going to call Frykowski because it took a lot for me to pronounce his name. Although I am ethnic, it is a little hard to pronounce.
It's not your ethnicity. It's okay,
right.
Girl. It's hard.
Thank you. So we're just going to call him Frykowski. He was a writer and also was with Abigail Folger at the time. They were partners. The next victim is Jay Sebring, and he used to be Sharon Tate's hairstylist, but after that, they sort of broke off that connection, and he just started doing hairstylist. He started doing hairstyles of other celebs.
Are you okay? Are you having a stroke?
I think I am.
You're malfunctioning.
I think I am.
He started doing hairstylist. He started doing hairstylist. He was a hairstylist. Styling hair.
Did I mention? He was a hairstylist.
He styled hair.
Yeah, no, I think I've gotten that point across. He was a celebrity hairstylist.
Get it, Jay.
The next victim was Stephen Parent, and he was only 18 years old at the time. He was working as a delivery boy, and we're going to get into sort of how he
what
gets...
happened
yeah.
and how he gets enrolled in all this.
Yeah. And the final two that were proven in a court of law, I should say, is Leno LaBianca and his wife Rosemary LaBianca. Leno was a wealthy supermarket executive, and they also died at the hands of the family a couple days later on August 10th, 1969. So let's get into the event that sort of, I guess, projected the family and Manson into mainstream media.
Yeah,
sort of
like
made
notoriety.
Exactly.
Got it.
On August 9th, 1969, Manson directed his most loyal group of followers, to kill every person inside Melcher's home. But Polanski and Tate were actually renting the home at the time, and Manson just wanted his followers to take out what he thought represented Hollywood's elite, and the home epitomized that, apparently.
Okay.
It was also assumed...
So did he know that there were tenants there, not the owner?
I think he knew...
Or
no.
did he not really care who was in it?
I honestly can't say for sure.
Okay.
It was also assumed that the home represented sort of like showbiz and the world that rejected him, both metaphorically and literally in this case, because this is Terry Melcher's house, the producer who wouldn't sign a deal with Manson. But I don't necessarily think that means that he was going after Terry in this attack.
Got it. Okay.
The home was located at 10050 Celio Drive in Benedict Canyon, an area just north of Beverly Hills. And also, fun fact, the house was eventually torn down, rebuilt, and the owner of the property even changed the address to 10066 Celio Drive. And guess who owns it?
Who?
Jeff Franklin, the creator of Full House.
Okay. I don't like that tie.
You know that TikTok where it's like, no matter where you are, everyone is connected.
Did he buy this house because he's a big fan of the Beach Boys?
I hope to God not, because that is some fucked up shit, all right? I don't care how much you love the Beach Boys.
Yeah, Sherry, just don't ruin Full House for me, okay?
No, I'm trying not to, guys. It was like a really cute show, with Michelle and stuff. And
John
Stephanie.
Stamos.
Ooh,
Bob
John
Saget. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
We called that. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Charles Tex Watson, Suzanne Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Casbian would carry out the murders of Stephen Parent, Sharon Tate, Frykowski, Jay Sebring, and Abigail Folger. Now, let's get into the actual event. Stephen Parent was the first victim. Stephen was actually visiting a friend that night, and as he was driving away in the early morning hours, he was spotted by one of the four bozos, and he was shot dead. Linda Casbian was apparently horrified by the shooting and stayed outside as a lookout, which I'm like, oh my God, like...
So wait, did this shooting happen at the house or just on the street? Because I feel like I remember from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that they were scattered, and I wanted to know if that was real.
No, it was outside of the home.
Okay.
I think as they were pulling in, they noticed that he was driving away, and they didn't want to be seen. And
was he at the home,
No.
hanging out, or he just happened to be on that road that the home was on?
He just happened to be on the road.
Okay.
Once inside, Tate, Frykowski, Sebring, and Folger were brought into the living room and tied up. Manson gave them the orders ahead of time to make the murder as gruesome as possible, and it was.
Oh my God.
Sebring was shot and brutally kicked as he tried to defend Tate, and during the terrifying murder spree, both Frykowski and Folger managed to escape from the house, but they were chased and stabbed to death. Tate, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, pleaded for the life of her unborn child, but she was mercilessly stabbed in the stomach by Suzanne Atkins. Atkins told Tate, quote, "Look, bitch, I have no mercy for you. You're going to die and you'd better get used to it."
Could you imagine having such a God complex?
I mean,
Like,
just
could you imagine feeling like you... I just, like, cannot put myself in the shoes of someone who feels that they can take someone else's life like this.
No, it's deranged.
Like, the way she says, "Look, bitch, you're gonna die." It's like, and who the fuck are you?
It's like she's reading off a script almost. I'm like, what is this actually coming? It's
it literally
disgusting.
feels like she had a premonition or something, and she's like, "You're gonna die one way or another," and it's like, oh my God, like, she's so brainwashed to think that this is correct.
Atkins then used Tate's blood to write the word pig on the front door. The following night, on August 10th, 1969, Manson ordered family members Watson, Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten to go to the LaBianca's home in Los Feliz and murder them. Also written in their home was "Death to Pigs."
So, do we know what pigs means to them?
I think
Because, like, that's, like, a term that people call police sometimes.
I think that he's using it as just this way for, like, Hollywood in general. Like, you're all pigs, like, that sort of thing.
Like, does he not feel that he's a pig? I'm just, like, a little... He's so delusional.
No, truly.
They're all delusional.
Manson and the family were initially arrested on suspicion that they had vandalized a portion of the Death Valley National Park. And it was only after the arrest that police identified them as the killers.
Oh,
which
God.
is so fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
Huh? This was an accident? You're saying, like, if that... What?
Yeah, like, if they hadn't vandalized a portion of this national park, would we not know it was them?
I don't know. The county sheriff had taken them into custody, not realizing that they were involved in the heinous murders. They were also being held in detention on suspicion of murdering Gary Hinman, who was a stuntman at the time.
Okay.
But it was through the confession of Suzanne Atkins that the police were able to charge the family. Throughout the trial, Manson and the family were seen giggling in the courtroom.
They're disgusting.
And just displaying no type of remorse. Like, obviously, they're in this, like, fucked up, brainwashing place, but it's like, I don't know what point it is where it is brainwashed, but at the same time, it almost feels like an excuse.
And I wonder, like, so they've obviously been, like, held. They weren't just, like, running amok before their court date. So, like, it's not like they're on drugs in the courthouse. So, like, reality should start setting in by now that, like, they've made a mess and they have to be held accountable for it.
Right. And it just didn't.
Yeah. These people are inhumane and just, like, I don't know. They're just a different breed of person. I
know. I think at least for Linda Casbian, I believe her name was, she was the one who was horrified by the murder of Stephen Parent, who was 18 years old at the time. Mm-hmm. And she became she
speaks out about the family now.
Yeah.
Right.
She was an eyewitness, and she was, she didn't get charged with anything because she did help them arrest Manson and the people who were, were very brutal about it.
Right. And I guess that's all we can ask for is that, like, as long as you... I mean, it's still fucked up, and I think she's probably still going to go to hell. No offense, Linda. But, I mean, but at least, at the very, very least, we can understand that maybe she's being reformed or rehabilitated or whatever it is. That
no matter how you feel, if she should have
sort of remorse. Yeah. It's better than none.
No matter how you feel of whether she should have gotten time or been punished for it, I mean, at least she helped arrest, like, everyone else.
Right. Yeah.
In January of 1971, Manson and Suzanne Atkins were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. But in 1972, California banned the death penalty, eventually giving them life sentences. Another thing that I think was not important to note, but, like, a couple of cool things. Oxygen has a site linked in our show notes if you do want to check it out. And it has updates about the family members who were identified and convicted for the murders. So you can follow up on it. I think one of the women who were arrested are seeking, what's the word?
Restitution?
Not restitution. Like, she wants to get out of her jail sentence. Why can't I think of the word?
Appeal?
Yeah, she's on her, like, 10th appeal right now, trying to get out of prison for this.
Well, she gonna run out of those.
Oh, she is. I think she's on her last one. I think that's what the article said.
Okay, bye,
I was like,
bitch.
girl, it is a lot.
Appeal all you want. I'm sorry, but you have to sit with what you did.
Right. And not to mention that it's also thought that Manson and the family members committed a slew of other murders. It's just that they didn't have enough evidence to convict them of it.
Right.
Another fucked up thing, Manson had famously carved an X in the middle of his eyebrows. I think a lot of people know that and recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
But right before his death in November of 2017, he turned it into a swastika.
Okay. So, what I think about that,
Right.
first of all, very disgusting. I don't think that has to be even said. Everybody agrees.
I would hope.
But what a fucking coward that, like, it was an X all his life while he was alive, and he didn't have the courage to make it a swastika because he knew somebody was going to beat the fuck out of him if he did.
Oh, 100%. He's like, I'm behind bars. I'm about
And
to
he
die.
only did it, like, right before he died because he knew that, I mean, come on.
100%.
It's so classic. He's such a fucking baby himself, but he tortures and hurts all of these other people.
Right. And not even
And
him. He
can't
orders
reap
others.
any of the violence himself.
It was disgusting.
What a fucking lame-o.
That's what happened. And it blew up like crazy. I think for a lot of people it was the first time they heard of these cult churches and how heinous they could get. I mean, I think people had an idea that they were around, but didn't know that, oh, people are being brainwashed a little bit, you know?
Definitely brainwashed, yeah.
It gets referenced a lot in pop culture today. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which we talked about a lot this episode.
We sure did.
And also it was referenced
Cult
in
season
Annabelle.
of American Horror Story.
Oh yeah. Oh, I never watched it, but I did see that.
Yeah.
And
Annabelle, interesting. When?
yeah, one of I think it was like loosely based on Manson, but somewhere in there in her story, I'm honestly not really
You could
sure.
say I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of it as I'm talking, and I don't do well doing that. So just Annabelle. Look it up, guys. Key takeaways.
This is so classic you. You tell me the headline. I'm like, give me more. And you're like, I don't have any.
No. Let me tell you, I could have written it down, and I did not.
We'll touch on that another time.
Yeah, we'll touch on it another time. Stay tuned. One thing that I think we want to start bringing back around is sort of takeaways and our existential questions that we would do at the end of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool and fun, and I think one of the main themes that sort of jumped out from this case was men and rejection. An in-depth analysis. No, I'm kidding. But what is it with men and these sort of certain fragilities that you don't really see in women, I would say. Like, right out of the womb, they're fragile. And like we were saying before, it always comes from a mother figure, and that sort of just sends them off this deep end.
Yeah, okay. We touched on it a little with the mommy issues.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about something a little unrelated, and then I'm going to bring it back.
Okay.
Okay? John Mayer's song, Daughters.
Oh, God! Okay.
Okay, this song is called Daughters. For those of you who don't know it, he says, fathers, be good to your daughters. Daughters will love like you do. Boys, you can break. And what is it? Find how much they can take. But mothers, be good to your daughters too. And then it says, girls become lovers who turn into mothers, so mothers be good to your daughters too, whatever. Maybe I'm jumbling the lyrics. Anyway, he says, boys you can break and find out how much they can take. And so he's saying, like, boys can handle more than women, and women are in charge of more, like, as mothers, and they go on to be lovers. But I think women are just more forgiving and able to let go more of their situations because of the maternity in them, the like maternal nature in them. I think that women just are able to take their situations and make better. Like, it's literally our mama bear instincts in us to just like use what we have and make it okay.
Right.
And I think not to generalize men, because some men have more of a grasp on this, but I think that a lot of men, if their situation doesn't give them what they need, then they blame it and they just turn out wrong.
They don't know how to cope with that. I think with women, they are able to, like you said, push past it and able to say, okay, but there's a plan B, there's a plan C. Men are like it's plan A or nothing.
What can I do to scrape myself off of the ground and get me to where I need to be?
Right.
Men break.
They do. I think that's why a lot of times, like, all right, unrelated but kind of related. When I first started dating, I just come across a lot of guys who were like, yeah, but I'm hurt because this girl that I dated in 5th grade never gave me back my crayon. Like, they don't know how to, like, push past,
it gets
like,
very
that shit.
petty. But also, I have to say, women can be the same way. Because,
Of course.
I know a handful of people who would love to blame society on the reasons why they're not successful or why they're not successful in relationships or what have you. And I think that it's interesting to think, like, what type of person breaks from situations like this and what type of person makes from situations like this. Is it a female versus male thing, or is it just like your nurture, or is it your nature, or what is it that makes you just take what you have and make it better instead of worse? Like, because that damn Charlie, he
made it worse, made it terrible. And he did a lot of bad things. And sadly, his name is, more known than some of the victims. But I think it's important to remember the names of the victims. I think it shouldn't just be sort of Charles Manson in the family as it is in the media, even today.
Right. So if you don't mind, I just want to end the episode reading off the victims' names again. And for those of you who are more interested, we will have, obviously, all of our links to our information in the show notes, and also other articles that just go more in depth if you'd like, because this is such a gigantic case, it's impossible to cover every inch of it.
Right.
Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, Jay Sebring, Stephen Parent, Lino LaBianca, Rosemary LaBianca. Thanks for listening. You can catch us on Instagram at The Chalkline Pod,
Twitter at The Chalkline Pod,
and follow along with our YouTube channel. The link is in our Instagram bio.
Tune in next Thursday for another story.